Hey, what's up, guys? This is DrFeelGood coming at you with another video prescription, and I want to thank you for lending me your ears. This will be a continuation of the Downfall of Gaming segment, and I'm going to talk about offline single player and co-op DLC. Why the hell don't we get any? Why are these developers and publishers so hell-bent on only creating and offering multiplayer DLC? So much so to they're basically adding multiplayer to games that don't make any damn sense and or is lackluster. For example, who remembers the first BioShock? A game that was initially exclusive to the Xbox 360. And I'm sorry, but that game was amazing. The story was fantastic. There was so much detail in that campaign. So much of the story was fleshed out. It felt like a living, breathing world. And it was a long campaign. It took hours. It did not have a multiplayer mode. But in the sequel, they forced multiplayer into the game. And anyone can tell you, it didn't feel right. It did not fit the game. That game's focus was and should have been single player. At the very most, you could have offered maybe online co-op to go through the campaign, but that's as far as it should have went. A multiplayer mode was not necessary. It wasn't. Tomb Raider on the Xbox 360. It did not need multiplayer. Max Payne. It did not need multiplayer. What they should have done is added to the single player campaign or added co-op elements to an otherwise single player game. That's it. Why don't they focus on that? You know, I would love for them to add an extra 10 to 15 hours to Tomb Raider or even Rise of the Tomb Raider. I would love that. I would love if, for example, Splatoon, which is an online-centric game, but it does have a lot of offline content. I would love if they added to the single-player campaign, maybe an additional 4 to 10 hours. I would love that. I would absolutely love that. But at least it was a shooter that was both online, multiplayer-centric, but it had offline campaign and other offline content. But take a game like Overwatch. No offline single player whatsoever. Same thing goes for The Division and Titanfall and various other games out there. Even games that have both single player and multiplayer, stop focusing on the multiplayer. How about you offer more single player DLC like they did for Grand Theft Auto 4? What's wrong with that? You know, I wish that Rockstar would add an additional 10 to 20 hours of campaign to Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, I know some of you thinking, man, what the hell? Like, no, seriously. I enjoy Grand Theft Auto 5. But instead of all this multiplayer DLC bullshit, how about some single player DLC? Like they did with Grand Theft Auto 4. You can use the same characters. Hell, bring in a new one if you want. Bring in a fourth character. Bring in a raunchy ass woman and make her story or her DLC add 5 to 10 hours of gameplay to the campaign, and it's directly connected. I would love that. Hell, add a Mass Effect like quality to Grand Theft Auto 5. Make it to where there's DLC, you can create your own character and you can choose their backstory, and whatever backstory you choose from the tens of combinations there are, it incorporates itself into the primary campaign the game shipped with, and you go from there. It's about 10 to 20 hours long. I would love that shit. I would love it. In fact, and maybe I sound like a dumbass for saying this, but I thought that's what the multiplayer portion of Grand Theft Auto 5 was going to do. I thought that it was going to extend the single player campaign. I thought that it would pick up after the single player campaign, and everything you did from there, you see story segments and CGI cutscenes that tied into the story, where you were just an unknown person that this crew that came into town, and you were looking to get paid or whatever shit they come up with, and you create your character, you design your avatar, whatnot, you give it certain qualities, a certain background, and then from there, when you do shit online, there will actually be missions similar to what you did in the offline campaign mode, and it would just feed off of that. But that wasn't the case. It was basically create an avatar and go fuck shit up. That's pretty much what it is. I'm just saying, I'm old school. I've been gaming since the NES and Atari 2600. Okay? I've owned almost every console since the 80s. I require a game to have a single player experience. Even if it's a short one, I just still require that. I refuse to purchase a game that's online only, such as Overwatch, Titanfall, The Division, things like that. What if Ready at Dawn were to release a 5 to 10 hour single player add-on DLC? I would actually be willing to buy that game. I'm not saying the game is not worth the experience, but we all know how that turned out. A 5 hour game in which only half that time is actually spent playing the game. No, but that's a different story that's already been discussed 100 times over, and I'm not going to get into that. But I ask myself, Nintendo, I love Splatoon. I love it. I love the multiplayer. I have over 600 hours in it. But I also love that campaign mode. Could you add to that? It's about 46 hours, which is not bad for a game that initially wasn't going to have it. But could you add to that? Give me more of it. Naughty Dog. I like the Uncharted franchise. I really do. But instead of this multiplayer bullshit that you schlock in there, how about you just add 10 to 20 hours of campaign? Whether it be events that happen after the game or prior to the game taking place, or maybe just the stuff in between. Hell, if you want, add a parallel storyline like how the movie 300 and 300 Rise of the Empire did. That's okay. But honestly, I would love an Uncharted game that took about 40 hours to beat the campaign. I would love an Uncharted game that, if they did add anything that was online centric, it would just be online co-op for the single player campaign. I would love that. I would love to buy a Call of Duty, and instead of them adding extra weapons, instead of them adding, perks and skins and maps and bullshit like that, that they simply just offered maybe an extra 5 to 10 hours of single player campaign. Hell, even just Add the ability to play the campaign in co-op, online. Allow me to send out a friend request to, I don't know, the Good Shepherd, and we play through the campaign together. That would be great. I just find it sad that we, the gamers, are not encouraging these developers and publishers to focus more on the offline experience. I like socializing in games, or let me rephrase that. I love the social aspect of gaming just as much as anyone else. And the ones talking shit about me right now, let me tell you something. I have thousands of hours in Call of Duty. Hell, I have over 1,000 hours in Call of Duty Modern Warfare alone. I probably owned and played more online games than you probably even know of, to be honest. On consoles, at least. But I still love my single player experience. In fact, although I'm one of those same people that buy Call of Duty for the online multiplayer, I also do go through the campaign. And I don't go through it 2 years later. I actually go through it within the first month of having the game. I really do. In fact, I enjoyed the campaigns of Call of Duty and Battlefield. But think about this for a moment. Wouldn't you love to have a Max Payne in which the single player campaign was about 25 hours long? Wouldn't you love a 40-hour campaign in Uncharted? Would you not love for them to add to the campaign of Halo? I'm just saying. I think that's something worth looking at. I think it's something worth thinking about. Instead of us asking for more maps, more guns, more skins, more online-centric content, let's start asking for offline content. Let's ask for that. It can't hurt. In fact, it will only help. It makes the game that much more enjoyable when you're playing alone. Just think about that. There's too much focus on multiplayer DLC. And servers are not going to always be around. But the single player, you can go back and play that game and enjoy it. I know people that have beaten iterations of Legend of Zelda 5-10 times over. Even Red Knight, shout out to him. He goes through and plays Metroid, I think once or twice a year, Metroid Prime. He loves it that much. Now, I can imagine how excited he would be if Nintendo said, we're going to add an additional 10 hours of story to Metroid Prime. He'd probably bust a nut on his gamepad. Sorry, man. I'm just joking with you. But honestly, I'm not saying make every game long like an RPG. Because I know RPG is a much slower experience. And they're single player centric. But I'm simply saying, what about these action games like Bayonetta, like Uncharted, like even Call of Duty, like Splatoon, like Super Mario 3D World? Why not add to the single player? And as you notice, I'm attacking everyone here, not just Sony or Microsoft, and even Nintendo. I'm just simply saying I want more single player. I would love a Grand Theft Auto 5 that took me about 60 hours to beat the single player campaign. And I'm not saying add in a whole bunch of useless shit and stupid missions that don't even contribute to the game. I mean, make me a fleshed out story. So one that I enjoy playing through and I want to actually experience every conversation and every interaction to see the story through to the end. Kind of like they did with San Andreas. Flesh out that story. Make it funny. Make it engaging. Intriguing. Even though it's a one-player game, damn, it had a lot of content. No DLC. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. Do you think these publishers should start offering more single-player DLC? And no, not just no damn speed pants either, but real single-player DLC that adds hours of gameplay to the primary campaign the game shipped with. Or if not single-player DLC, at least add an offline and online co-op mode, to where you can play with someone sitting next to you, couch co-op, do the campaign, or you can play online co-op. You can play the single-player campaign online with a friend. Kind of like Splinter Cell Blacklist. But anyway, that's all I have. Let me know your thoughts. And as I always say, keep it gaming.